Tuesday, Mansfield today. Nice to have you with us, and nice to have our resident legal eagle, Advocate Lance Brogden, with us. Hello, Lancey.
Hey, Jim.
Last week, and thank you very much for your emails, we did take some of them into account when we were putting this together. Last week, we threw forward to this week's show, and I suggested with all the schools back now, and everyone sort of up to speed, I think some of the schools, in fact, I think some of the private schools, or the private schools, actually go on half term in about in just a few days' time, actually.
Yeah.
It's half term already for them. I mean, it's scary.
You pay all that money. And the buggers are said, you look after them.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get it.
The whole issue of cyberbullying. What is cyberbullying? Let's get a description going here first.
Right, so before we get to our children at school and so on, cyberbullying is where one person or a group of people using electronic devices such as phones and computers, verbally and via pictures, attack another person or persons. So it's about using electronic devices and attacking them. Examples, for example, if you put a photo of somebody in a compromised position and basically attack their dignity. It doesn't always have to be of a sexual nature or nudity. It can also be a person who's slightly intoxicated, which sometimes happens to young adults. And putting it out there and actually infringing the person's dignity without their permission. If somebody gives you permission, it's freedom. The second one is where there are threats or negative comments about a person and, threatens.
Why did this, to me, it was all of a sudden, this became a huge issue.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened, there's two parts to it. One is technology. When we were youngsters, even at school, at university, if you wanted to date a girl, you had to get a telephone number and phone and speak to the mom and then the grandma and go through the whole process.
Yeah.
Now everything is there and live. And also, you can do it as a coward. Cyberbullying is done by cowards. Okay, because if you've got an issue with myself or Jim, you come, you face us, you tell us what you want to say. But to go out there and demean us, threaten, do it via electronic, and it can be done now. Everybody's got one of these tools in their hand. That telephone is more powerful than in the 60s rockets that were being sent out into space.
Yeah.
So this is why it became so real. But there's another thing that's happened, and I wanted to touch on this at the end. But just right now is, guys, be careful what you put out there yourself. Be careful what you put out yourself. Not even against other people, but how it can compromise you.
Okay. Going back to that one. Is there any form of a legal, for want of a better word, framework that protects against this activity, this cyberbullying?
Okay, I think this is a very important thing. So up to recently, there wasn't legislation that surrounded the cyberbullying and protected it. What you had in place at the time was you could get protection orders, etc., through the police, or go to court with civil remedies, criminal remedies for criminal injuria, where you actually are demeaning or defaming somebody, the dignity of the person. There are others that you could use, sexual exploitation, or putting pictures out there, criminal defamation of character. So there were criminal and civil actions to be taken. However, I think we are fortunate that during May of last year, 2021, okay, a new act, the Cybercrimes Act, was initiated. It wasn't put in place immediately. However, the first step happened in December of last year, where it doesn't actually criminalize certain acts per se or certain activities, but explain the framework within which this could be done. So, give an example. So, it explains what the activities are in more detail. Putting out electronic defamation statements, pictures, nudity, even showing a picture of a person's private parts with their clothes on. So it's getting quite deep into what it's about. We're waiting soon for the actual side of what the crimes are fitting in. It also explains now the broad rights of police to go and take away your equipment, which you could, for other reasons, under Anton Pillar orders and so on, for different reasons, for different civil and criminal matters. But the point I'm trying to say is this has kicked off now in December. We're going to get a framework which is going to help us a great deal to actually stop these activities. And for example, it links into other acts. So where a child between the age of 10 and 18 is doing these sort of things, what can happen to them? At what point can they be imprisoned? Although it's a last resort, can they be imprisoned? So this thing is developing quickly, and I'm actually very glad it is. Not to see people imprisoned, but to teach people that we are not cowards, we don't bully, and especially at schools. You know, not everybody is a gung-ho first-team rugby player, and people sometimes are just people, and they deserve to be protected.
Okay, you're pulling in all these other acts and other areas that it involves, which I quite understand. But what is the primary focus of this Cyber Crimes Act going to be?
Okay, so the primary focus always is preventative. It must become so visible that people say, you cannot do this without deep consequences. Secondly, the Act explains what cyber crimes are and where they slot in, and also how you connect them to civil and criminal issues. So that's the primary focus. The secondary focus is defining what happens if you do this stuff. To me, the primary focus should be preventative. As a matter of fact, all law should be in place, and people should be brought, like we do on the show, just the veneer of what it's about, to protect you from doing something silly. Let me give you an example, if I may, Jim. Mm-hmm. So I know of a young fellow at school, and a lot of young kids do this, boys and girls. And then they will send pictures of their own genitals and private parts to other kids in this whole process. That has a vast, once you've done it yourself, okay, then be careful when that person you sends it on to somebody else. So all these things are being captured, and preventive is, guys, don't do that. Please show this show to your kids. Share it with them. There's nothing but a fallout, a disastrous fallout when these things happen.
If you believe you are a victim of cyberbullying, what sort of primary advice can you give to somebody?
Okay, so, and please, once again, that's a good question. You brought that one, I didn't think of that one. So if you, and this is very important, I'm thinking it through while I'm sitting here. One is capture it. If you're a child watching the show, first thing is, please go to your parents or your guardians or your teacher, but share it with somebody who's a mature adult. Then record it. Don't erase. Sometimes as humans, we just put our head in the ground. It's so painful to see it again and again that we erase it. Please don't. I know it's uncomfortable. Don't erase it. Capture it, put it down, capture the information, capture the timing, put it together, because later it may be very important for you to protect yourself. Because somebody's going to say, nonsense, I didn't do it. And it's out of context. Have the context ready, please. So I think that's the most important thing. But share it with a mature adult. Share it with your big brother or your big sister. Don't hide it away. Nobody deserves to be bullied. It's not part of a healthy society. The New Crimes Act will define this more and more. But like anything, sadly, the proof is what is required, not just what you say people say to you. And even nowadays, if somebody's bullying on the phone, record it on your phone. You youngsters know how to do that. Save this, record it, and date it. So that at least then, when it comes to our world, we can sort it out and put it to bed.
Thank you very much. Advocate Lance Brogden.
Professor Jeremy Mansfield. For you, I ride the porcupine Kalgat.
Yes, that he always has to ruin it somehow. Bastard. We'll catch you again tomorrow, once again right here on Mansfield Today. Bye-bye.